go. Let's see what we working with. I'm gonna have to get the charger for this bit.
Thinksty's Bray Predator is now live. Streaming The Elder Scrolls V, Skyrim, Skyrim 023.
What's up, kitty? What up? Hey, come on now. Excuse me. Oh. Excuse me while I get a few things in order. Dude, what's your deal? I need both my hands here. Sheesh, just lay down. Lay down. Get yourself together. I cannot pet you the whole time. Come on now. This kid is ridiculous.
First you hear it, then you feel it.
What is happening? Oh, did it get taken down? Or is it getting shadow banned? What the fuck? That's weird. Huh. Ain't no way. Ain't no way. Yeah, I had to search for it. Weird. That's... Come on, Google.
Sarah mattered. Owner gonna find and kill the people who murdered
Dude,
my
you
wife.
know that ain't gonna help anything. Alright, so I want to say I was about 20 minutes in. CFAB 329.
Is longer because they need to be longer to justify their existence. They need new songs. They need additional story content.
This is more than the old one. It's bigger, better, chunkier.
Yeah, pretty much. As opposed to the idea that you've essentially, like without this realization that like the story is as long as it needs to be, and when you start adding stuff in, you run the risk of ruining everything.
Every moment in the original is jam-packed with stuff. You're not going to catch it on a first viewing. There's too much happening. When the animals are running around, and we'll have a whole section on the animals. But when all the animals and critters are running around, when you got the dwarves doing their thing, when you've got just the, you're showing on the stream now, this whole sequence where she makes the potion to turn her old, and when she makes the poisoned apple, the sleeping death, all of the effects that go into it are, like, they're insane. The fact that all of that was done without a shred of digiticisms. It's all analog. It's all just like pure skill and devotion to the craft of animation and the kind of work they had to do to learn how to do it. This is actually what you're showing now, when she drinks it and you get the effect of the room spinning around as one plane on top moves to the left and the plane in the back moves to the right, and then you have her kind of hunched over, and you have the swirling effects. It's never been done before. It's literally new. They did some tests in some of I think they're called silly symphonies, where these sort of short animated segments that Disney did at the time that they used as like testing grounds to try new things. The multiplane camera was used in like the old mill and a bunch of like testing for weather effects and stuff. But this had to be done well. It was understood. Disney knew it. We had to nail this. We had to make this like something that had never been seen before.
The animated shorts, something to bear in mind. Steamboat Willie released less than 10 years before this film came out.
28.
Yeah, and that, like to think about essentially going.
That was the first one with color, or sound, right?
Yeah, well, because that one was black and white. But
it was until 32 that there was the first colored cartoon. Was in 1932.
I guess it's just like remarkable to think about getting from that, which in and of itself was already a huge accomplishment, to Snow White in less than a decade. It's like, wow, goddamn.
Let me see. Just going through the process of this, I have an insane amount of appreciation for what it took to make this, not just the sheer balls it takes to put that kind of money, everything on the line, to make a movie that had never been done before, but all the work that went in from the animators, the sound designers, the inkers, and the chemists, and just all of the creative endeavors that combined from that team to make something that we're still talking about 90 or so years later, that is still being attempted to be emulated, as we will discuss. Heavy emphasis on the attempt, but what a great movie.
On that series of notes about everything you just said about the amazing work that just went into this, I spotted a comment earlier on. I just want to address it early so we never have to do it ever again. And they said, sure, let's endlessly rip into a movie made for children. First of all, apply that to praise as well, you coward. Enough of this, like, you can't be breaking down in definitive detail and criticism a movie meant for children. It's like, say the same for the praise then. Don't ever watch someone say like a children's movie is really, really good for these reasons. Be like, dude, why are you taking it so seriously? It's for kids. Loser. And then, of course, children deserve to not consume pure slop just like adults do, and if not more so, I would argue. And then the best children's films entertain the shit out of adults. And then, of course, the children's movie was actually created by adults using adult filmmaking processes that actually come under a lot of scrutiny in the industries themselves. So I don't see why we wouldn't want to try and improve through criticism that process. Just wanted to cover that early on, considering it may come up a couple of times, because Snow White is definitively considered a harmless
the origin and the purpose of fairy tales. So there was a guy, I want to say, is it Bruno Bettelheim? He was a Freudian psychoanalyst, and so like many Freudian psychoanalysts, he abused loads of kids and faked this research and then killed himself. But he wrote some interesting stuff on fairy tales, like the uses that they're put to, and the point and purpose of educating children through stories precisely like these. And he wrote an entire chapter in one of his books on Snow White, which, if you get away from the slightly weird Freudian stuff about like the dwarves being pre-Oedipal expressions of nascent sexuality, there's still some useful stuff about how fairy tales are supposed to educate children on children's own level about the adult dangers of the world that's around them. Like, the point of good stories for kids is to teach them adult things which they will understand more fully once they're grown, but on the level that they're currently at, you play to their imagination. So like the original fairy tales of, say, Snow White or Little Red Riding Hood is all about be careful of adult strangers, be careful of the woods, don't go exploring in dangerous places, all of these things which are, vitally important, which you can tell children through appealing to their very imaginative ears and kind of anticipations, which is really interesting stuff when you get into it. And one of the things that Bettelheim said is that there's this great problem that lots of modern entertainment has, especially modern children's stories, is that it's adults who are now expecting children to sort of be on their level already. So what they're doing is not understanding how you educate children. It's the adult basically making movies and entertainment for themselves. The problem is that if you kind of embed that approach and you have a load of adults who are brought up on stories for children which are shit, like a lot of modern TV and movie writers happen to be, then you get this recursive thing where all entertainment becomes like the most superficial, bland, boring, and quite on the nose in terms of its messaging and all the rest of it, because they haven't really been taught how to think. This kind of entertainment for kids, Snow White, fairy tales from which it's drawn, because it's a fairly faithful adaptation, is all about improving children to make better adults in future, which is why it's some of the most important entertainment there is.
On the note of the generational effect, like, because I went to see this with my mum, by the way, and she mentioned the original scared her when she was a kid. And I was like, fuck, when you were a kid, but I was a kid as well.
Scared
like,
me as a kid.
That's what I'm saying.
When
It's just
she's
like,
running through the woods, I was like, ugh.
Yeah, that's what she was talking about. I was just like, the fact that multi-generations are spooked by that scene, you know what I mean? Like, that's how endearing, or enduring, I should say, the movie is.
It was always the logs that turn into like the alligators in the water. That's the one that always got me the most as a kid. I was like, ooh, that was always the scariest to me. And it was the sound of the water sloshing around that was so real, because it was real water sloshing around, because they had to do the effects for the movie. It always just made me go, ugh, that's scary, and I'd look away. And it still has that. It's just watching it again, it looks so good, and it's so creepy. It evokes, like, the idea that you could have in 1937 a cartoon that could get you to be afraid of the forest, afraid of this evil witch, that could have this music that really makes you swell with these emotions of terror, and then you're finally glad when it's over, peace can happen. These shifting tones, and that just wasn't done before. As you watch the movie, it goes from like terror to calm to excitement and happiness to near the end of the original, when you have the dwarves rushing back to the house as the old witch in disguise is trying to get her to eat the poisoned apple, and it contrasts these two scenes. I mean, it's cinematic, and cartoons didn't used to be cinematic before this. They were just a different medium. And we owe a lot to the fact that this movie came out and it was this good.
There's some great little personal lessons in it as well. I mean, besides the, teaching children to be properly scared of dangerous outside worlds, it's also like the personal moral lessons which are neatly condensed into the movie. The idea, which sounds so simple, but is one of the most important things to sort of drum into people, that the queen beats herself in this movie, because jealousy is the thing that makes you ugly. Don't be jealous of other people's beauty if you want to be beautiful yourself. Like, all those very simple moral messages, which are very, very, like, they're kind of profound, because they're not trying to be anything more complex than they are.
Well, it's opening that, because it's kind of like a template for how they would often deal with the demise of villains, basically throughout, like, the majority of Disney movies from then on is usually that they are their own undoing, rather than it being, like, a direct consequence.
Yeah, you wouldn't have Snow White stab her in the heart or anything.
No. I mean, but I mean, this can be said for a variety of different aspects of the film. That like basically every Disney film that follows owes something to Snow White. Not strictly with regard to all of the techniques that were employed to animate the film, but also the narrative structure of the film, the sort of the fantastical elements, the sort of storybook fairy tale quality that's like was essentially established here very strongly.
Never know if there's people lurking.
Yeah, you see the influence is very clear. Its ability. It's very much a fairy tale. It opens up with the book. It starts the story. It closes with the book, and they live happily ever after. It just sort of embraces what it's trying to be. It doesn't shy away from that. It is very much a fairy tale story brought to life in a new and revolutionary way.
There is the genius there that is on full display from Walt Disney in like his understanding of what makes for a really brilliant, beautifully colourful character. That's what really sets this apart. Besides, like padded with all of these endearing and charming skits, it's the fact that he turns the dwarves who are nameless, I think, in the fairy tale into very distinctive characters. It's the fact that he's able to kind of flesh this world out. He diminishes some of the darker aspects of it a little bit, like the queen doesn't dance to death wearing shoes of burning iron, for example, which I think is what happens at the end of the fairy tale. And he embellishes it instead with the things that children like to see as opposed to things that children like to fear. All of these animals, he's trying to take some of the danger and the fear factor out of it, but while still remaining faithful to what the fairy tale is trying to tell them. And he creates this entire world of brilliantly drawn characters in both senses of that term. And the dwarves have sort of gone down in history as one of Disney's foremost products, which is kind of funny now to see that they refuse to use them in their modern productions.
Oh shit.
There is a story to talk about something that Disney had done. One of the animators said in an interview, he said that his first big segment in the movie was when Snow White tells all the dwarves to go out and get washed before they can have dinner. And that was one of his projects, something he was in charge of. When Dopey goes to turn and he kind of goes the wrong way and then has to catch up to the other dwarves in line, he does a little bit of a half step where he has to sort of synchronize his steps to match the others. And Walt Disney liked that so much as an aspect of Dopey's character that he had all of the previous scenes with Dopey be redone to give Dopey that sort of hitch step where he catches up to the other dwarves. Much to the chagrin of the animators who had essentially been approved for inks at that stage. They had to go back and reanimate all of it. And it was a lot of extra work, but now it's an element of the character that we see today, and it's part of the movie, and it makes the movie better. He wasn't afraid to say, yeah, we're doing a lot more work, we're going to rejig old scenes, because it'll just make the movies better.
There's a lot of detail, to say the least.
There's an immense amount of detail. Like I said, you can't catch it all in the first go. You can't.
It's just like, think about all of the visual gags that they managed to implement with the dwarves, with all of the critters in the woods. Which of course, as you're watching, you'd be like, man, and it would be a really good idea to translate this into live action. That's a smart idea. That's not stupid at all. But you think about just how much they managed to cram into it. Like, this is a dense movie. Though I suppose what's interesting about it is that it's simultaneously dense, yet a lot of the scenes are lengthy. Like, there's big extended sequences of, I suppose if you could describe them as, I don't like using the word mundane activities because it makes it seem like they're boring, but that it's almost like that's kind of the point, right? Mundane activities such as cleaning, but presented in a very charming and energetic way because you've got a whole bunch of squirrels and rabbits and, the turtle lumbering around the place. Like, it's taking all of these essentially very, straightforward, normal activities and imbuing them with, like you said, whimsy.
They're also integral to the character of Snow White and the theme and the moral of the thing as well. These are all funny individual skits, but they all tie into this idea, and it's something similar that you see in Peter Pan, for example, where Wendy is kind of she is the allegory for nascent motherhood. Snow White is the one who kind of goes there and brings this order and civilization to people who, and animals as well, who didn't have it without her. She is the civilizing influence. So it's turned into a series of skits with really charming music, and it's funny to watch and sort of pick apart in the individual scenes that are on display, but also you're getting that story coming through, which is that Snow White is becoming...
Your data is gold to hackers. McAfee helps keep you safe with AI-powered scam detection, secure VPN, and
get the fuck out of here.
antivirus. Plans start at $39.99 for the first year. Visit McAfee.com/online protection. Terms apply.
In the sense that she is being able to create civilized behavior out of men who don't have it without her. It's an immense amount of power that she's got, but her modesty is what allows her to kind of go through it without even realizing necessarily what she's doing.
Yeah, Snow White, and I guess that might not be a bad way for us to sort of segue into the new movie, because it's very difficult to. I say it is impossible to not talk about the new without comparing it to the old, because they are essentially trying to do a remake of one of the most important films ever made, the film that essentially created the Disney company that we know and used to love. We owe so much to this movie. So to remake it is a tall order, one that should be done with great humility and respect. Whether or not that was done, of course, will be part of our discussion for this afternoon. We'll see if they were able to do it well or not.
I kind of don't want to leave it. It's so nice.
No,
We'll be coming back.
We'll come back a lot.
You know, like, you can have conversations about which of the Disney films are going to be your favorite. I mean, Snow White is not my favorite Disney film. I definitely have a preference for the Renaissance films, but at the same time, like, you gotta respect the legacy of this film. You know, it's like Rag said, it's one of the most important films of all time, period, like, ever, in general. It's the influence of this is difficult to overstate. So yeah, when you're trying to make an adaptation, it probably is worth entering into it with a little bit of humility, like recognizing that you're probably not really even in a position to accomplish what was accomplished with this film, and to bear that in mind while moving forward and implementing changes to the story.
Worth considering, if this movie didn't get made, if Walt Disney carried on making, silly symphonies and those shorts and things of that nature, if this wasn't the groundbreaking film that it was, that essentially proved that this sort of endeavor was, like, possible and potentially profitable, one does wonder what the landscape of animation would continue to look like. How long would it be until someone took that risk, that big risk, and made it
That's
big?
what I would say is that I don't imagine there being any world, like any timeline, if there wasn't Snow White, where there wouldn't be feature-length animated films. But you do wonder, it's like, well, how long might it have taken?
How long, yeah.
Rather than having these be essentially a staple of cinema, pretty close to the beginning of, like, cinema as we know it today. You know, again, this is 90 years old, nearly. This is nearly 90 years old.
There are few people alive today who were around when this movie released.
It's got that, like I've mentioned a few times, it's like a timeless element because the amount of effort we went to this thing is amazing enough on its own. You don't have to be compelled by the story to just be, like, amazed by each frame and all the effort in every scene. But, as we've been over, it's quite an endearing standard story as well. It's like a classic archetypal sort of exploration of a little bit of, the princess who needs help from other sources, but at the same time promotes a lot about friendship, love, and overcoming bad, evil with good. It's a super, foundational, I'd say.
I mean, that's something that's worth, expanding on a little bit more. It's like, this is a solid story, like, this is, like, sound in terms of what it's trying to achieve. I mean, even providing character, like, Grumpy has a character arc in this film. Going from essentially very jaded, cynical, and standoffish to demonstrating that he genuinely does care and is the first, to jump to the call to help rescue Snow White. Along with all of the, I guess what you could call the smaller lessons and like, sort of recommendations and guidance, but presented in a very charming and entertaining way so that it doesn't come across across as stale or boring or like a lecture, but more so like, hey, yeah, cleaning can be fun, like in Snow White with all of the wonderful woodland critters helping you tidy up.
And when you do dishes in real life, you're like, where are the critters? That was so.
Where are the little chipmunks cleaning the cobwebs? Where are the raccoons?
Another thing about Grumpy that I find funny is if you had watched the original before the remake, and you catch his lines about like, she's a female, they're full of wicked wiles. It's like, well, that's not making it.
All females is poison.
I love it because, like, you know, what point the film is making is like he's clearly got like the cynical perspective, but by the end he's completely turned around and it's like that won't make it into the new one because they would never want a line like that. It would be too mean. Can't be doing that.
Well, and then you combine that with all of the jokes that are just basically going to look really stupid if you're doing it with photorealistic animated animals, because it's all, you know, it's funny calling these films live action considering how much of it is computer animation anyway. But like, you just, oh, sorry, god damn it, you watch like all of these sequences with all of these incredibly like energetic, lively animals that are obviously, you know, provided with some degree of I can't believe that the word is escaping me right now. God damn it, what's the word for like essentially non-human things being imbued with human qualities?
Anthropomorphization?
Oh my god, yeah, there it is. You know, anthropomorphizing all of the animals to have them do all of these things that they could never do. It's like, this is a film, and it makes sense that that this would be so strongly the case in, you know, in this film, of essentially taking advantage of animation as a medium, you know, leveraging and utilizing all of the opportunities that are available to you because you're not using real people or real animals or real environments.
Yeah, I mean, as much as, you know, we'll be talking about all the different topics that relate to this, this is not the first. We are almost well-traveled into this conversion now into live action, and I still don't know that Little Mermaid's going to be beaten out for the transit, because like Lion King was really bad, and I don't mean like overall quality, I mean specifically the transferal of
aesthetics, like you mean?
No, animation versus live action, how you exchange expressions. Like the Little Mermaid is probably never going to be beaten for
Well, the problem is it demands too much of its animal characters compared to a lot of other films where that's less. You know, like Aladdin, right? It's mainly Genie, which is it's like, yeah, I mean, trying to make Genie like realistic is pretty stupid. It's just a dumb idea.
But like, I don't know that there's ever going to be one that better captures it than Flounder going from animation to...
That still makes me laugh.
It's like nightmare fuel of like, what did you expect? And the animators be like,
fish now.
I'm just doing my job. And I'm like, yeah, but what job is this? Like, who asked you to do this? Like,
yeah, I mean, it's very much the case here, but essentially the case with the vast majority, if not all of the, you know, Disney films, understandably so, that they are leveraging animation for its unique strengths that live action doesn't have access to. And the big one is that you can have way more fantastical things that are more readily accepted by the viewer because they're cartoons. They're designed to be more appealing and approachable and not realistic. You can imbue them with qualities that make it easier for people to relate to them as like people, even though, you know, in this case we're talking about a talking fish. Like, trying to take that to live action is like on its face absurd. Because of course, this, you know, feels like it's something that needs to be emphasized more. Like, these remakes shouldn't exist, period.
No.
Like, regardless of how well conceived any of them are, like, they shouldn't exist. Their existence essentially demeans the original films, because the implication is that you don't see the reverse. You don't see people saying, man, I wish that live action film was remade as an animation. People don't say that. That's never said by anybody. The reason why it's the other way around is because there's a strong implication that animation is in some way, shape, or form inferior. Or what was the way that How to Train Your Dragon was described recently, like that the original was more of like a test screening compared to the live action remake, which is going to be well thought. It's like,
She's the person who said that.
The trailers before seeing the new Snow White, I had back-to-back How to Train Your Dragon and Lilo and Stitch trailers, and you know, I don't fucking care, so I was just talking over them and stuff, and my mum was like, I remember, wait, And I was like, yeah, you remember the originals, and they're awesome, and they're making new. And she was like, why are there so many remakes? And I was like, I don't even want to get into it. But one of the things that really fucking annoyed me is we had the trailer for How to Train Your Dragon after. We had two. It was weird. It was like the actual trailer, and then there was like a TV spot thing that came after it with Cass talking about it and the director talking about it. And some of the things they were saying was like, finally, in live action, we can explore things we never were able to before. And I was like, fuck off.
The reality is, if we want to get a little bit real, the opposite tends to be the case. In animation, there's more. It's a Harry Partridge cartoon. Like with animation, you can with all of these insane things that you can't really do when it's live action because you can just draw it. Like if you can draw it, then you can make it. Compared to like, well, if it's in live action, like you got to find ways to actually do it. Or alternatively, you need to, like you're more tuned in to see uncanny things when it's like photorealistic. It's a reason why. We talked about that Daredevil fight, and and it's like, why is the reason that it looks bad? It's like, well, ostensibly you're trying to be realistic, but like you can see that they're not moving realistically the way that they're jumping around and swinging around. Now, of course, it's Superman. It would make you believe a man can fly, right? Like it's more complicated than that in terms of what you can achieve in live action. But the reality is, like, you're not really going to be able to achieve a lot of what was accomplished in the likes of Snow White or The Lion King or Aladdin or Little Mermaid or in any of these films. If you're
we still watched
live action.
We still watched Lady and the Tramp. Nobody did, but
no, we have a lot.
I have not seen that.
We have not.
And don't forget Cruella.
Live action remakes. That's true, Cruella. Yes, that was a good idea.
What a fucking nightmare.
But I mean, essentially, the reason why they keep making these films is because they are chasing the billion-dollar returns that they were getting from some of the earlier ones, like Sleeping Beauty, Aladdin, Lion King. These films made like $1 billion.
Yeah.
That's why they're going to keep making them. So it does look like we were in a downward spiral, which, thank God, I would like for this to come to an end before they start getting
I want this era to be
the ones
over.
they haven't done yet, like Treasure Planet or Hercules.
So they're doing. Isn't live action Moana like essentially?
Moana. Yeah, that's
the beginning of the end. As in, what I mean is that they're going to be getting to Pixar eventually, and it's going to kill all of us.
They will.
They're going to catch up to their own present.
It'll be the Incredibles. It'll be the Incredibles. That will be the one that they'll do in live action first. That's the one where they'll test the waters, and it will probably make a lot of money, and then that will just open the floodgates to a whole bunch of them. And the reality is that given all of the ones that they've done so far, there's no reason to really assume that anything is off the table. Like Monsters Inc. would probably be considered viable, even though again it's like there's one human character. It's like, yeah, it doesn't matter though. I mean, like look at the Little Mermaid. Like the Little Mermaid is substantially comprised of like major non-human characters.
Dude, Finding Nemo with the flounder animation. Could you imagine?
Yeah, a photorealistic. Because that's what I want to see in Finding Nemo. I want to see a photorealistic clownfish.
Yeah, I don't want to see a live action The Rescuers. I don't want to see Bernard and Bianca as actual mice with little hats. It's like, this doesn't work.
Or Basil the Mouse Detective and the final fight is just a mouse and a rat.
The rat fighting on top
of bat?
The
The bat with a peg leg, but a live action. They just cut off a bat's leg and stick it.
Again, they did live action Lady and the Tramp. There's no reason to assume that anything would be off the table, and I don't think they're going to give up.
They are shameless, and they clearly don't care about like artistic integrity. The Lion King should have sold that,
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna be a fun stream.
We have a bright future ahead of us, not just for today, but in the years to come. All right, Snow White, 2025. I kind of had just like a series of topics to go through the movie because that will kind of be a way for us to do comparisons.
Want to do broad thoughts, or one thing I was going to ask everybody to do is one word to describe it and give some time for everyone to decide.
Sludge.
That's too easy.
Well, I was thinking about it. It seemed like it was too straightforward. There's got to be a better word.
I was gonna go with obnoxious, and I will explain that the more that we talk about it, and it is very much in reference to the original, which, by the way, is the blueprint for this new movie. It is, as mentioned before, impossible not to compare changes because they have done the thing, the dreaded thing, where they decided to keep a whole bunch of stuff and get rid of a whole bunch of stuff, which turns a previously coherent story into an incoherent mess. And,
Yeah.
like I said, an obnoxious incoherent mess to me.
Okay.
It's difficult to say it in one word. I think I'd say soulless is the one that comes to my mind, especially after really delving into the creation of the original and seeing how that was made versus what I saw in the theater that day.
If I could modify the question, go for a word that applies to this one that doesn't necessarily apply to all of them. Like, sludge and soulless would definitely be on both, all of them, I would say, the remakes.
Okay.
Just to make it a little harder for everyone.
A word that comes to mind for me is feeble. Like, this is a feeble film in the sense of, like, it's like this film that essentially its only real ambition is to make a bunch of money. There's not this desire to, like, create this sort of everlasting, piece of art. It's just, let's get it out there, let's make some money, rather than, like, thinking about what can we actually achieve with filmmaking as a means of telling our story. And then, of course, just people in terms of its impact, like how nobody's going to be unlike the original film, which is still being talked about. In this case, 90 years later, nobody's going to be talking about this film in a year, in a month, maybe in a week.
I'd say that still sort of applies to a lot of the live action, because I would describe The Little Mermaid as feeble. What I don't think The Little Mermaid was masochistic. And I think this one was, and I say that because The Little Mermaid, I think, was feeble by the definition you've just provided. It was only there to make a bit of money. I don't think it hated itself, and I think this one hates itself. I don't think this one wants to exist. Nothing in this movie wants to be there, and neither does any of the people. Self-loathing is,
I think I hated The Little Mermaid more than this one, but this one I just wanted it to be over. This had this lingering kind of feeling with it, where when I was in that theater, I'm like, man,
doing a ranking of
just be over.
hatred for all of them would actually be tough for me, because I was trying to remember what I ended up hated the most, at least the
That
stuff
would be
with
tough.
boys.
This one was more like it was just annoying. It was like a guest that you hate that just won't leave, and you want it to be over. And a lot of that is owed to the pacing and the terrible songs and characters and everything. But I don't like. Dopey would be a good word to describe this movie. It's a horrific, terrible attempt at doing something else. But no, Dopey's charming and he's good inside. I guess there's a level of like pride and maybe vanity is what this movie tries to be. With the changes in the story and the differences in animation.
It definitely views itself as the superior story.
Yes.
A big way to
Going for obnoxious as I'm going for.
This is something that I almost find fascinating, which we can kind of talk about more. I do find it amusing that essentially this new one is a lot more conventional in terms of like its storytelling ambitions. And when I say conventional, I mean conventional when you think about like a lot of the templates for stories in like recent years, right? The story of like, she's the daring young woman who has to essentially like sort of have like a big confrontation with like the evil force and become the leader that she's meant to be. It's like, that's kind of pretty dull at this point. Like, that's pretty played out compared to like, a woman stumbles into the forest that essentially like enriches the lives of 7 dwarves going about their daily life out there. It's like, yeah, that's a lot more uncommon. Like, if you release that today, it would seem like a little bit more like, that's kind of an interesting and unusual sort of format.
It definitely thinks it's new for some reason. I guess they all do, don't
I
they?
don't even understand why.
They all think that they're very clever, that they've come up with some really cool ideas.
It's really not that unique at all. Like,
Would it be better if Snow White actually goes back to the castle and confronts the evil witch in front of all the townspeople bravely? It's like, no, that would be weird.
That wasn't done in 2011 with Kristen Stewart.
I never saw that movie.
It was decent. It was better than this.
I believe you when you say that.
I believe that.
It's kind of funny to think too, because it's just like the reputation we're dealing with. Chat's already aware of it. The meta of this is going to be probably the most hated movie this year, or at least one of them. Right? It's up there.
I don't know what else would be sort of in competition.
But it depends
really.
if Superman's like awful, or if
that's
like that could yeah. But I remember by the time you hit the end of the year, a lot of people might forget this was this year. It tends to happen. Be like, oh yeah, Snow White, that was shit. Like, yeah. I'm curious if it'll have the cultural impact of hatred, or if it'll be forgotten really quickly. Who's to say? Who can know? We'll find out. In any case, there's like so much to say about everything wrong with it. It probably is a good idea to break it into subjects. I was just gonna say, I found myself rolling my eyes with this one. I noticed that happening in my head more than usual.
I agree. This one did give me that feeling a lot. I couldn't connect with anything. I recognized it for what it was. I wanted it to be over, and I wanted to go home.
Oh yeah, I did do, I think 2 times I looked at the time. I was like, how long have I got? Not too much longer.
I was definitely ready to, like, come on, okay, here we go. Let's get done. Every second is a second closer to the end.
I knew how the Queen was defeated the second I saw that. I was like, finally. Like,
I didn't know. I was so curious when we were approaching the end, and I'm like, what the fuck are they going to do to get rid of the Queen?
Yeah.
Oh my god, it feels like you've essentially thematically written yourself into a corner. It's like, oh, that's how you get rid of it.
Thematically, the whole third act is just like, I don't know. Then this happens,
I guess she does this thing, and she calls a guy's name and tells him to remember, and then the Queen dies. And I'm like, okay, alright. But we'll go into that in detail. But I guess topic to topic, I think it's probably a decent idea to start off with the incredible titular character, Snow White herself. Snow White, our protagonist of the movie.
I would say this with plenty to talk about beyond what people might expect. This is not Snow White in this movie. This is a completely different fucking character. I don't know.
True, it is a completely different character.
In the first scene, right? Because the first scene, not only the film opens with a kind of like actually surprisingly long narrated, basically exposition dump, and it's like in this sequence that you essentially establish like what the core arc for the character is going to be, and like right out of the gate, it's like, okay, so we're going in a different angle here, right? Like that being kind to people is kind of secondary to the actual thing that she needs to develop, which is to be brave. It's like, okay.
Yep. Oh god,
bravery.
This shit goes all over the place. Why do they have brave and fearless? Like, be brave, be fearless.
Well, because what her father gives her is, her family has their sword that's passed down from generation to generation, and it has loyal, brave, and true written on the blade. And so when her father gives Snow White the samurai sword, the pendant, and it has those traits on there, I think I turned to my mom and I said, Isn't it insane that they just give her a pendant that has the traits that she should have, and it's just written there around her neck? Isn't that insane?
Well, this is the declaration of your character arc. You will need to complete it over the course of this movie.
Don't they?
So, wow.
The first eye roll I remember happening right at the beginning. They say something like, "You will lead. That's what you're going to do. You're going to be a leader." And I was like, "What? Wait, she's like fucking 5." Like what?
My first eye roll was even before that, because it's the question of leading what, and my first eye roll was when it's told that the king believes that essentially the workers should own the means of production, and so the bounty of the land belongs to those who work the land, says the king. Remind me why you exist. What is your position in society?
It's a clerical duties. It's a ceremonial position.
I know it's a bit tangential, but it reminds me in the opening sequence as well, when it's like, oh, the king had to go to the southern kingdom to wage war, and it's like, now, I don't know why you did this. Like, to me, if you were to say, like, what is it exactly that is like the fairy tale aspect of a film like Snow White, it's like, well, it doesn't, like, it is a medieval kingdom, but like it doesn't invite me to ask like actual questions about it as a real location.
Yeah, about like political strife and warfare.
The writers trying to figure out, like, well, we gotta get the evil queen. Like, so for anybody who doesn't know, in this story, it's a king and queen. They're the most wonderful, happiest, nicest people ever, and they're raising good old Snow White. But then the wife dies, and some lady comes from a different land and marries the king.
Shows up.
Yeah. And then, they do this thing of he has to go to war. There's a war happening in the other lands. He has to go and fight. And then it's like, and he disappeared during it. This is a really weird through line in the film. I don't know why they made it so fucking complicated, because they imply at
Because
first
it doesn't amount to anything.
that he's gone forever, but maybe he's out there somewhere. And then she has this moment in, like, the end of the first act. She's like, I'm gonna find my father because the queen lied. And I remember thinking to myself,
go to
like,
the
whoa,
Southern Kingdom.
this plot line's getting weird. Like, she's gonna go explore to find her father. Like, when? What? And then, like, Act 2 is like, no, he's dead.
Yeah,
So, like,
don't worry about it. He's gone. He's never coming back.
She's still alive. Is that the queen tells lies, and she told me my father's dead, but because she lies, that means he's probably still alive. Then the next time she meets the queen says, no, he's dead. And she's like, oh, I guess he is then.
Yeah, and it's just like, okay, so the writers clearly had to solve the problem of, well, we need to make it so the queen killed him, but it's not too obvious. We need, like, a plausible way he could have died. Like, well, how about a war and we don't even know his fate? It's like, you could have just had him die of a mysterious illness. And it's like, and then it'd be like, well, was it an illness? Was it what got the wife, the previous queen, or was it the queen who got him? It's like, ooh, that's
Those are potions and black magic.
My father's simplest thing to do would be like, you extend the monologue once, my mother died, the queen turned up, my father got sick, and he got sicker and sicker, and then he died, and his new wife became the queen.
This is literally the plot of Barbie is the 7 dancing princesses. Holy shit. Even they knew
the blueprint was right there.
The good king and his 7 daughters married this evil fucking bitch, and then she wanted to take control of the kingdom, and so when he got sick, she didn't give him medicine in the tea. It was actually a slow poison that would kill him over time and keep him in bed. Even the Barbie movie, straight to VHS and DVD, got this shit right.
To circle back then to what Free was talking about, it's just like, why did you make me think about all of that? And I haven't even started thinking about the wars in the Snow White world. There are wars.
You don't want me to think about the world. You want me to treat where they are as just essentially a fairy tale location rather than like an actual feudal kingdom. Like, I shouldn't be thinking about the idea that there are other kingdoms that they're going to war with. It's like, and alternatively, like, essentially the economic system that's in place is like, don't do that. Like, it's not a benefit to you anyway because you're just creating places for there to be problems.
It's these hack solutions to extremely simple to solve problems that have now, like, extended into a bunch of other world building that was never there, never needed to be there, and just awkwardly complicates the whole world. I don't even know what to think of it. I was just like, okay, we're just gonna move on from that.
They did it because they needed that to be like a big thrust for her, right? Because if she wants to be a leader, but the whole movie she's seeking out this other leader, her father, but then when she realizes that her father's gone, she then realizes that she has to lead and be brave. Ooh, character arc. It's like, you do realize that just because there's an arc doesn't mean it's a good one, right? Like, in terms of the way that you've actually constructed it.
Do you think it was odd? Because it seemed to me that they introduced it as the mum and dad, like, give her this big foundation of the kind of person she needs to be, repeat it over and over again, sing with her, blah, blah, blah. And then the mum dies, and then only a little bit older that she gets that the dad meets the queen, and then he goes to war, says goodbye to it. And then every reference in future to who inspired her is solely the dad. I was like, didn't the mum also tell you all this shit?
Yeah, that is odd. It's all about the dad.
You could argue, like, oh, well, she spent much more of her life with the dad. I was like, I don't think she did. Like, she went to war when she was a similar age to when she lost the mum. So I was like, it feels weird. Like, the film forgot the mum at some point, because every reference in future is like, I will do what my father told me. It's like, well, your mum told you to.
This brings us to actually another relevant point. So in the original film, the story begins where it begins. You don't see, like, Snow White's backstory. Like, basically, as soon as she is revealed to be the fairest of them all in the land, that's, like, where the story begins in the original. All you get for the backstory is, like, yeah, the evil stepmother, locked her away and made her a maid. Whereas in this, you see, like, well, no, you see her prior life, and then you see that phase before her, but then there's, like, a 10-year time jump. And it, like, much more calls you to think, like, what happened in those 10 years? Like, you know what I mean? Like, you've now presented the situation. You presented that the kingdom has gone to ruin in that 10 years, and like, what did she do?
I'll tell you what happened. They very subtly
She forgot herself, right? That was the line that they gave us. Snow White forgot herself, so she was just sort of cooking, I guess.
They had the entire populace fucking scrub their clothes of all the color. That's what they did in that 10 years. It was so like crappy and obvious. It's like, look how happy everybody is when the other people were ruling. And now it's gray. It's like, okay.
Peachy all of a sudden.
Yeah, no, it's not like the Queen forced sad to not allow to have colors. That shit was so like lame to me. It's like there's films that do that way better, like with using costume design or the environments and everything. But this film was just like, I don't know, it's fucking grey now, lol.
I think the closest
It doesn't look worse, just grayer.
So the Queen says the people don't need luxuries. Luxuries are a distraction, which I think is as close as you'll get to it. Like,
What is that about an apple pie?
I don't understand. Like, so she drained them of their color in their clothing.
She took all of the colourful clothes off the market and burned them.
Which might have been something you could do to play into her vanity. She wanted to be the most beautiful, so she did something where she that's like a fairy tale thing where the queen gets rid of all the beautiful clothes in the kingdom, so she could be the only one who wears them because she's so vain.
Not to move around, but I would love to explore the Queen's motivations throughout this film.
Do it. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I don't know. We were on Snow White. I don't know if you want to move there again.
Snow White's, I think it was mentioned before, the idea of Snow White being brave seems to take the primary role of her trait as opposed to her kindness. She's just kind of nice in the background when she's not being sarcastic to Jonathan, but ultimately it's about her being brave and stepping up and being a leader, not about her being nice to everyone else and creating connections with people.
Maybe the way to explain it is like, is the kindness essentially relevant to her winning? It's like, well, sure, but the kindness would have meant nothing without the bravery. The bravery is the indispensable component of Snow White, more so than the being kind, which is like, right, so you have made her different now.
They really wanted her to be a fighter and a leader, like which obviously is not the point of the original film at all, those like traits being accentuated or even discussed about the story, but this one, which matches some of the meta discussions they had promoting this thing, that Snow White's like a more of a modern girl this time around. She's gonna be on a horse jumping into them fights because she's a strong lady.
In charge, she's gonna rule the kingdom and it's gonna be great. But then it's like, and in terms of the whole thing of that being more of a priority than the idea of like what is the effect of her kindness is reflected in, and I'm sure we'll talk about it later, the greatly diminished role of the dwarves in this film, because that's the main way that the kindness clearly manifests in the original film, is that she makes the lives of the dwarves much better, and makes them better.
Argue
that is absolutely
the sort of move from animation to live action has one more adaptation in like 10 years from this to the next one would almost, I think, remove the dwarves. They are like vestigial to this film. There's no fucking point.
No White without the 7 dwarves. It's like, yeah, that's kind of accurate. They're not.
Also, I would say their screen time is quite remarkable considering how fucking useless they are to the storyline.
Yeah,
it's weird too because of how they take. So an example would be the cleaning sequence for the house. In the original, it's done with the animals once she first arrives at the house. Here, it's done with the dwarves. The sequence is done with the dwarves, as if they almost felt. I don't know why they would make the change, because if the idea was that we need to give the dwarves more screen time and more interaction with Snow White, they cut them out for huge portions of the movie to do stuff with the bandit rebels and Jonathan and that whole thing. So it confuses me as to what the actual point is.
Well, they get in the way. That's the problem with it. They put them in there out of this distant sense of obligation. The dwarves were in the original. The dwarves have to be in this. Our story doesn't need the dwarves, but we can't not do the whistle while it works, can we? So just chuck it in at any given particular moment. And then, because narratively it gets in the way. She escapes the hunter. She runs into the forest. She finds the house. At that time, her motive is, and she tells us this, I must get as far away from here as possible, basically as quickly as possible, so naturally she has a nap. Then she wakes up and the dwarves are there. Then she tells them to clean their own house, and then she's immediately back to, oh, hey, my father might be alive. So the actual story is just
Dude,
on pause the entire dwarf
It's
sequence.
just worse.
That's where I went from eye rolling to just like baffled, where she's like, so I'm gonna go look for my dad. Anyone know the direction? I was like, what the fuck are we doing? What do you mean? What? And then bump straight into the bandits, and then they have all the information she needs regarding the whole. I was just like, God, should we even pretend there's a world here, as opposed to there's 7 trees, and that's the forest, and then there's the dwarves has this. Everyone finds each other immediately for everything that they need. Remember, those men are sent to go and capture her, and they like immediately cross her path. It's just like, this forest's not very big, huh? There's just nothing here.
Well, listen, they've been there for 274 years, so
I don't know why
pretty
they
easy to
call
find
for
at that
attention to
point.
that as well. Why are you telling me how long the dwarves have been living there?
I don't know either, because it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't amount to anything. This is actually something my mom brought up, because I went to see this with my mom and my sister, who they were morbidly curious to go to the theater with me and check it out. Was my mom said afterwards, what was up with the weird glowy thing that the dwarves had on their hands that let them find gems?
Oh yeah.
Because that never came up again. What was the point of that? Was it just a visual thing? Because isn't that normally supposed to be what happens? You introduce something and then it comes into play later. When it's like, nah, their hands just glow when they're around gems.
It's for anybody who hasn't seen this, which should be all of you, what Rag's talking about is explicitly that. They all have a glowy thing in their hand. When they all touch the rock, it lights up all of the, like, I guess the best ores
gems
in the
and
area.
the ore veins and the... it's just true.
I don't know why,
It's just-
because of course the idea would be that they're expert miners in and of themselves. That would be the idea. If they don't have like a superpower that comes with their species that lights up ores, it's just like, why? And then of course, like he said, okay, well it's got to come up later. It's like, no, never again.
It's just pointless.
It's just a thing to do a little visual for their singing sequence when they're in the mine and everything is glowing super bright and they got buckets of gems and everything and their hands glow and the cave glows and now we're done. Don't worry about that ever again. All right, I won't.
And it's not even
Very
there's an opportunity to do something with it, because one of the lessons she tries to impart to them is that they need to learn how to listen to each other and work with each other, which they apparently haven't been doing for the last 200 and something years while they've been incredibly successful miners. They gave her that line to speak as though it does actually mean something. You could have quite easily made it mean something if you'd had the dwarves like running into really hard times. They've been trying to mine, they've fallen out with each other, they're not successful anymore. She teaches them to work together, they go to the caves, they learn to work together, and oh my goodness, look, there's riches in them, their hills. But again, it's another line that's thrown in without any meaning or connection to anything else that actually contradicts all the information you've really been given about the dwarves before, because you've seen them working together already. So, fuck it. Why even pay attention to the dialogue?
It is a great maybe the biggest or among the biggest failures of the remake is that they do a terrible job establishing a connection between Snow White and the dwarfs.
Well,
In the
it's
original,
because of what Mauler said. It's an obligation. They're here for obligation, not because they recognized or appreciated their narrative purpose in the original film.
I think so. They're certainly treated as being superfluous. They're being treated as like disposable, like obligatory. Yeah, I think
Except for Dobie.
What the
Dobie
fuck
gets
was
the
that?
arc
Dobie,
instead of Grumpy.
What kind of
Yeah.
insecurity led them to want to say like, hey, leave Dopey alone? He's actually a creative genius. He's a special boy. He's intelligent. He's a leader. He's brave. You're like, what are you doing? It's like, yeah, Dopey was retarded in the original, and it was funny. It doesn't need to go further than that. They're treating it as though everyone bullied him, and that he was like.
Well, yeah, as if Dobie was singled out as somebody you meant to laugh at, but you meant to laugh at and with all of the dwarves. All of them have aspects of them that are funny, right? Bashful being like, oh gosh, and hiding his face behind his beard, or Grumpy being like, ha, I don't like nothing, and like laughing at him, or Sneezy constantly sneezing all the time. Like they're all essentially meant to serve as some sort of comic relief role. But instead, it's like, no, Dopey was singled out as being made fun of, so he needs to have an arc of being
to the
brave,
point-
just like Snow White.
To the point where they fucked up with him, and that he's mute because he's too scared to talk in front of them because of how much they make fun of him. I was like, what the fuck have you done?
Because in the original, when Happy introduces himself, he also introduces Dopey. He says, He don't talk none. He doesn't know if he can talk because he's never tried, and they all laugh about it, and even Dopey laughs. Like, it's not, they're not making fun of him, that's just how he is. And
They genuinely made it seem in this film that as a result of cruel bullying, that they have, like, stunted the expression of this poor boy, and... Ooh.
Hotels with spas. Beach resorts with spas. Ski resorts with spas.
It's Snow White that saves him.
Essentially, yeah. And I suppose what I find funny is the question of, like, well, is it better to have a parallel arc, or is it better to, like, have a different arc altogether for a character? Because, you know, as mentioned before, Grumpy is, like, the main arc in the original film among the dwarves. The whole point is that he's standoffish and mean, but he ultimately does care, and it's manifested through his investment in Snow White, to the point that they put
parallels with Snow White
on him.
It's important for her personality. He warms up to her because she is constantly kind to him, and when she mocks him, it's very good-natured. When she kind of laughs
she
when
wants
he's
him to like her, right? When she's doing the brand, you know, the last thing she adds is, "Oh, can you please make Grumpy like me?" Which, you know, it's like, yeah, because there's a desire to essentially, like, forge that connection with everybody. The idea being that her kindness essentially makes Grumpy, like, a better man.
Also recall in the original, she was the pie that she was baking when the old witch
Grumpy's name on it,
was for Grumpy. Yeah.
I feel like there is a clear reason why they put emphasis on Grumpy specifically. All of the dwarves are crying, you know, when they've got her in the glass coffin, but they put particular emphasis on him. But again, now it's been switched to Dopey. Dopey's got the arc, and his arc is he needs to be brave, just like Snow White, and Snow White inspires bravery in him, and it's like, man,
like I said, that's one thing, but to have executed such that his, like, oppression in his life would be it's like, what are you doing?
Yeah. Why do you have
Don't
to
make
ruin
fun
all
of the
other dwarves?
neurodivergent guys.
Exactly.
It's not fair.
Why did you have me start thinking about that? Why did you want
He doesn't talk because he's too afraid for 274 years. He's not talking out of fear.
Would antagonize him, that they would all...
They're all
and
mean.
the thing is that
But he's not Dopey, really. Yeah, he's he talks like a narrator.
Well, that's the thing. It's like, but if you're gonna do it, and you're gonna do it honestly, wouldn't you have it be that he doesn't speak it?
He talks like Simple Jack.
Yeah, well, you know, maybe not quite like that. But the point being that, like, it shouldn't be that when he speaks, he essentially speaks with, like, a narrative voice. It should be a voice that, like, fits the character, and it should be, yeah, that's your voice, and it doesn't sound normal, but that's okay, right? Like, if you're going to be doing that kind of arc, instead of having it be like, well, no, he's actually, like, totally, he's coherent, he can speak totally coherently. It's like, okay, I mean, how did he, okay, like, alright, sure, fine. He can just
Consider it
normally.
that it creates an interesting, weird parallel, because in the original, who was the worst speaker of all the dwarves?
Dog, right?
It was Dog. Dog, who was kind of like the leader, he was the worst at speaking because he'd always mix his words. It was a very
accidental Yoda kind of
yeah. He would accidentally swap words and letters, and but he was confident he was kind of the one who took charge and was the leader, but he was the worst at speaking, but he was still the sort of leader. So the idea that Dopey has a really, really good voice, but he won't talk because he's not afraid, because he's the lowest on the pecking order, is really weird.
Give it to Dopey rather than Bashful. I mean, it's in his name. You know what I mean? Like,
on Dog, by the way, they removed, like, the whole speech impediment, like, the whole idea with it, and they made him this, like, weird book nerd that randomly just gives out facts and labels and names to things. It's like, he's the smart one. I was like, man, that's a little less dynamic. Well, kind of
describes things in detail for no reason.
Just started to make me think, like, why are all these changes being made? Why did you, like, overcompensate with the one who's bullied for being a retard, and then you make the speech impediment one hyper-intelligent fool? It's like,
make her more of an protagonist, which is pretty funny considering that in the original film she is active, it's just that she's active in different ways. Like, she's the one who essentially takes charge of the dwarves' lives. You know, like, oh, you don't get to eat unless you want to, or like, oh, we need to make sure that things are clean and everything so that it's, you know,
I
like,
completely agree. She's active in a way that they would consider weak at this point. So once making this movie, they'd be like, no, she needs more.
Yeah, cooking and cleaning and taking care of people, like taking on a maternal role. Nah, that's not cool. We don't want women
she
doing
knows
that.
what she wants. She wants a prince.
She does.
That's what she wants. That's
Yeah, well, fuck her. We need to change her into a girl who wants to, like, fight in wars and lead the people to destroy fascism.
That saps the narrative weight of everybody else's arc around it. So the great thing about the original, and the fairy tale is kind of similar in this respect as well, is that she's incredibly kind. Through her kindness, she civilizes people, and she is rewarded kind of almost by the universe itself. So she wants this prince, she gets the prince. The dwarves are the ones who protect her because her kindness has rubbed off on them. They work together. The queen comes and they kind of fend her off, and it's in that particular exchange that she meets her end. If you have then your Snow White, the active leader in sort of the combative sense, the one who goes and does the fighting, rides the horses, swings the swords, casts the spells, all of this shit, then all of the conclusions to the arcs that everyone she interacted with in the original must be supplemented to that. Like, you can't have both of these things. You can't inspire people to be a leader if you don't leave them space to be leaders. And this film won't do that because she has to be the leader of everyone and everything. So there's, again, no real point in investing in the arc with the dwarves, even the one that it wants us to care most about with Loki, because it's not going to go anywhere, because all his, like, the resolution for his story is he will stand behind her as she does everything at the end. And then maybe a nice crossbow might shoot someone because he was added late in the movie. And that's kind of it.
Yeah, basically for her, and it doesn't really require, like, anybody else.
Cheap viewers on streamboo.com. Remove the space FNA3.
Having been familiar with the original, when the huntsman takes her out, I distinctly remember that moment, especially as a kid, because it was quite scary, where he just gets the knife and he's about to stab the fuck out of it.
The shadow.
Yeah, all of it. The thing that she does before that happens is finds a bird that looks like sort of terrified, and she's asking if it can find its parents and that they're probably close by. It's a very like caring and soft and personal moment. And then he comes at her with the knife, and she recoils in fear. She has no idea what's happening. She's terrified. And then he rolls it back and explains the situation. It's a really solid, simple scene. Gets everything done the way you need it to be. The new one, he's walking with her, and she plucks an apple, and then she's like, "Would you like to have this?" And he's like, "You are so kind." And I was just like, "Oh God, really? You guys managed to? The blueprint is there. Why do you fuck with it?"
I have it listed as a character because it's interesting how they expand his character and make him worse in every way.
Like, I don't know. We've done this several times with these fucking remakes. Why do they take the original scene that is better and make a worse, different one? Why?
So, as you were describing the original, it does sort of remind me of some element about Snow White that's been completely removed. In the original, Snow White screams in terror, like, multiple times, because she's fucking scared, alright? When the huntsman comes up behind her and raises the knife to kill her, she, like, screams in terror, because that's the natural reaction a lot of people would have to about to be fucking killed, right? She screams in terror. The huntsman drops his knife, he breaks down in tears, he grabs her dress and begs her forgiveness, right? When she's running through the forest, she's screaming, she's absolutely overcome with terror. Even when she first sees the dwarves, she goes like, oh shit, fuck! And it scares her, right? She's not, like, brave in the sense of, like, she shows no fear. She reacts normally to things that are terrifying or things suddenly happening to her.
On that note, I would say, it's really, it feels like it is an important and bafflingly overlooked aspect of that whole sequence is that when all of the chaos is over and she finds herself alone, she weeps, she's crying, because this is a horrible experience that she's gone through.
She breaks down.
And it's like a really important humanizing moment that this situation has been terrifying, but yet, as soon as she sees all of the critters and they all get startled by her, she immediately switches back into, like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to scare you, you know, come on out, I'm not gonna hurt you, like, that even even amidst the horrible situation she finds herself in, the kindness still comes through, and it endears all of the animals in the forest to her very quickly. It's like all of this, like in the new one, that's gone. She's not crying. It's just a deer shows up and she's instantly like.
She's never afraid. She's always super brave to the point of it being like you should be brave right now. You shouldn't be terrified.
I was gonna say part 2 to the huntsman scene that pissed me off then again was he comes up behind her, draws the knife, and she as was mentioned in the original, terrified. You get the full experience, you understand it completely. She thinks she's gonna die and she doesn't understand why. In the new one, she has this stern sort of staring at him. Like,
kill me if you dare.
Yeah, like, will you, sir? Is that what you're going to do? And then he just folds. And I was just like, you can't have her be scared? Really? Like, you know what happened.
Be scared.
The studio were like, no, she will not. She will be brave. She will be fearless in this moment. It's like, what are you talking about?
Brave? Then what is character arc? She already is there. So there's no arc. She was just brave from the start.
It's kind of a two-pronged element. It's not just her, bravery to the point of being stupidly brave and completely unrelatable to. You can't sympathize with her like you can the original Snow White. There's a second prong to that, which is I've noticed multiple times, especially after rewatching the original and taking some notes and things. Snow White in the original, one of the first things that she does when she talks to the animals in the forest is she asks them for help. I can't live here in the woods with you. Do you know anywhere that I could go? Could you show me a place where I could go? I need your help. And then they lead her to the forest cottage. And in this one, she does not, and we'll kind of get to this whenever we talk to the animals, which is like a whole segment's worth of stuff to talk about. The animals are very prominent, essentially, characters in the first movie. They're anthropomorphized, they have expressions, they nod at her when she says things to them. They're basically characters, they're agents in the story, they do things. And in the remake, they virtually don't exist for the most part.
Magical aura that just protects her rather than being actual living beings that have an interest in protecting her. It's like the universe manifests through the animals that they need to protect her rather than
just
being
around.
I mean, also,
She doesn't talk with them. She doesn't communicate with the animals and ask them for things and say things to them. She's essentially silent when she first meets the animals in the forest.
I mean, because we've kind of gone over it, but that is the flounder issue as well, because that's one of the first things my mum actually pointed out. She was like, there's something wrong with those animals. And I was like, it's because they're attempting to be real, and your brain's not fucking accepting it. Whereas in animation, it's so much easier to accept exactly what they're going for, because they are wonderful, happy, warm little creatures. That's how they've been drawn, and that's what they are in this world. In the new one, they're like full-on actual animals walking. I don't think that anything will capture it as well as probably Lion King from that aspect of just like, what the fuck have you done?
I think they learned their lesson with the Lion King. I think they learned that they need to. I think they need to. It's toned down. They're not. I think one of the things I don't like about the animals in this is that it's kind of uncanny. It's the same thing with the dwarves, because we can kind of lump those in with the same issue. Do you know those memes and pictures that would happen where they have cartoon characters like Homer and Peter Griffin and SpongeBob, but they're given realistic textures and realistic, and it's the point of the meme was that it's abhorrent and repellent and really weird and freaky, but they do that kind of unironically here with the dwarves. They give them all of the weird cartoony proportions sort of, but then they give them the very realistic looking skin, and it gives that uncanny valley kind of thing. I think with the animals here, you can tell they're not real for the most part. Their eyes are bigger, they're a little bit changed in proportion to be a little cartoony, but they're still covered with real eyelashes, realistic fur. There's no stretching of proportions in their movement to imply that they're whimsical or cartoonish in a way. And I feel like this is that really terrible middle ground where it's not as realistic as the Lion King was, and they're trying to scooch it back towards being cartoonish and cutesy and but it's still not far enough. It's still in that terrible middle ground.
I was going to say, it's still not working on the average audience member from what I can tell, and certainly not IMO, but maybe you're right, it's an upgrade from The Lion King, but yeah, we're nowhere near fixing the problem.
Yeah, it's still terrible. It's just nudged in a direction.
Reality is it's going to be hard for them to fix the problem because, they are meant to be cartoon animals. So like the only way that you could do it is if they were like cartoon animals. You know, kind of like the Sonic the Hedgehog deal, right? Where like you're not like really trying to convince me that Sonic the Hedgehog is like an actual. You're not like I'm basically meant to accept this is the way that he looks, and he looks like a cartoon character in a real world, and like that's okay. Compared to the horrific monstrosity that they originally came up with, where it's like, I guess that's more realistic in a way. But like, why would I want that? But again,
instead
this
they
is
changed
also
it and
going
cashed
from-
in their millions. Yes.
They did, but I would still add that I would have preferred that if the Sonic movies were animated. Like that would still be my preference for those films.
I have like on the far end of one spectrum, you have like Who Framed Roger Rabbit, which is real people and actual cartoons side by side. That's like that one far end of the spectrum. And on the other end of the spectrum would be like the Lion King kind of stuff, where it's like you just made real animals and you robbed them of all of their ability to be anthropomorphized.
The Absolute Mermaid is the one to choose for that other end of the spectrum.
Might be.
Being good.
Yeah, that's true because it has real people in it. Yeah. But also, yeah, you're probably right. It is the Little Mermaid. That movie was an abomination.
You know, flounders in my head. I can picture that perfectly.
Swimming around up there.
Soulless, like.
I don't know why. For some reason,
I think when I first saw it, I fell off it for ages. I couldn't believe it.
Sebastian, a crab is naturally kind of cartoony in a way.
There's things you can do with a lot of animals. But yeah, the fish one was like, okay, how have you not realized you've gone too far? Like, it's a fish.
It feels like basically like should be grilled. It's kind of like dogs, right? Dogs feel like they're on the easier end of having them be like a talking doggo. You know, you can imagine like a Labrador being like, "Hello, I'm a Labrador."
Also, do you remember that there was a
naturally the way the fish just because the worst thing about Flounder is that the voice actor was kind of doing his best, and like he's kind of charismatic. The voice lines have
Jacob Tremblay, right?
I think that's his name. Like he was clearly putting a lot of effort in, and the effort kind of like, it invited you to look at the character that was speaking, and it's just this fucking dead-eyed fish stare the entire time.
Yeah, exactly. It was fucking weird. Like it's gone way too far. The lions are bad enough, but that one felt like it's the king of the fuck up. I was just gonna say quick, another one to put on the spectrum, Rex, the film that did it, like cats versus dogs, you know?
Yes, that's what I was about to bring up. There's that stretch of movies in the 90s and early 2000s where they had like real animal. I guess this is further to the left of the spectrum than cats versus dogs, but they just had real animals, but they like animated the mouths when they talked. You know those? Those were like, okay. Some didn't bother. Like I think Homeward Bound, they didn't even move the mouths. They just had voiceovers for the three, as far as I remember. But also, if you guys remember a film called The Incredible Mr. Limpet, where they have, I'm a fish now, oh my god! And they actually kind of made like a fish, but gave him a much more human face, where it looks like, oh, it's a cartoon fish. He turns into a cartoon fish, and he has expressions and things. Like, that's another route to go with it.
Yet another option,
Yet another option. See, people have been trying this for thousands of years, and some formulas are far better than others. This is a terrible one. They chose one of the worst ways to do it.
Well,
it's because the film should have been. I mean, it was animated to begin with. Maybe it should have stayed that way, you know.
We are cycling around, but to stay again on Snow White, which will probably be the longest topic out of them all. Getting down to figuring out exactly what journey they wanted to put her on, right? We've gotten the parents front load everything you're supposed to know about her, not even learn about her, just know that's who she is, full stop. And then every opportunity they have to change the old scenes to add more what they would refer to as agency, strength, leadership. What they're doing. I've seen some people say like there's nothing in the film that would prove that she would be a good leader for this kingdom. It's like, oh well, the creators would disagree with you. Like all these scenes where she, you know, where she's ordering the dwarves to clean the place. That's supposed to be evidence of how she's like an excellent leader. When she saves the bandits,
I don't need that.
Again, look at her go. Like she could lead a war. Look at her. That's amazing. He rides that horse like a leader rides a horse. And
jump ahead, but the film does actually. The film explicitly confirms that it thinks that she has the moral
weakness to fire.
To rule the kingdom.
That's why we die to those fire dragons so quick.
The mirror, like, that doesn't work for a number of
poison
reasons.
doesn't work.
Not least of which is that the mirror, like, it changes
For
its
us,
definition of the word
doesn't
fair
work as
halfway.
Yes,
well.
it does.
At the end of the film. Because if that were the case, and if the mirror was talking about fair in the sense that the movie wanted to at the end, which is, well, obviously Snow White is fit to rule because she is the fairest, look how lovely and great and also strong and powerful she is, then that should always have been the answer. Not,
Yeah, Gal Gadot, if you were nicer, you would actually be fairest one.
Yes, evil queen who likes to be evil. If you were less evil, you'd be not the evil one. Which to me was like, what the fuck is that going to be to her?
And that should be the mirror's answer. Who is the fairest of them all? Well, by this definition, literally anyone in the kingdom. Anyone is nicer than you, so they're all fairer than you. You'll have to kill everyone, but especially go and kill Snow White when she is the absolute fairest.
It all fuck with the meaning and the ideas in the film, and you don't change everything. You just change pieces. It starts to fuck up everything else.
It also establishes, whereas obviously beauty is very subjective, but it's very clear from the original that Snow White is supposed to be a very beautiful young woman. And so fairness in that context was beauty. It plays into the foil of the vanity of the evil queen. But in this one, by saying that her fairness comes from within, her beauty's from within, she's such an amazing and virtuous person. She is the most, according to the magic mirror, she is the nicest, most virtuous person in the entire kingdom. There is no one who is better than her in that aspect.
Nope.
Which is like, dang, okay, film.
Well,
all
her
right.
upbringing, she was told to be nice.
And then she was,
Yeah.
all right, she is the most morally upstanding person in the kingdom. So saith the magic mirror on the wall, of which this is the mirror's only purpose. To judge fairness.
But as you brought up, though,
The mirror said that she was the best.
well, what sense does this make anymore? Why would the queen be competing with Snow White to be the nicest?
Yeah, exactly.
That doesn't make any
why
fucking sense.
Why did it say
The queen is very secure in her evilness.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah, exactly.
Though they try to fuck with that, I guess we should wait until we get to the queen before talking about that, because it really annoyed me in terms of the fact that they didn't change the changes.
There is, I suppose things will start to merge a lot with characters. So if you want to move to the evil queen, as has already happened, because of the way the story kind of plays out and things are mixed and matched.
I don't know if you wanted to sort of, the way do you want to do like Snow White from start to finish, or do you want to come back to her because there's some stuff at the end and everything?
I think it'll be fair to come back to her later.
Yeah, alright. Well,
as
because
we
the other
sort of
thing,
establish who people are in their roles.
do you want to do acting later?
We can, you know what? I think that we'll be like water.
Oh,
If
yeah?
the acting comes to mind, if it is something that you think is important in a
Sure, we have
particular
all-
scene that we talk about.
We've all got things to say. Okay, well, anyway, on the note of the Queen's motivation and the relationship with the mirror, we fundamentally get it repeated several times in this film, and I was starting to get like confused because the film kept trying to it was like the film was telling me what it thinks is making sense about the Queen's motivation, when every time I was like, no. This whole thing of, we don't like sort of surface level, fragile, beautiful things that wilt and wear down and fall apart. She keeps using a rose to simulate this. She's like, look at them, oh yeah, rose is beautiful, but look, it dies in a mere seconds as she uses her magic to simulate it. And she's like, and look at a diamond. It stays amazing forever. And so she, as a character, way prefers things that last forever. You're like, okay, where are we going with that? It's like, well, now she hoards all of the gems in the world, and her subjects suffer in like famine / poverty, whatever's going on. She like absorbs everything in the entire kingdom for herself. I was just like, oh, that's like a completely different thing. I don't even like that. What does that have to do with her saying that she prefers the diamonds to roses, and that makes her the better leader for these people? Do you remember, like, near the end of the film, she repeats this to all of them? Like, why would you want a queen that's like Snow White, where her even if it's her inner beauty, it'll wilt, meanwhile a diamond stays strong forever? And you can tell the film had an opinion to be clear about, with the sword, the dagger she has smashes into, like, pieces or dissolves, whatever. Like, Siege, that happened just like it happened with the rose, so really she's full of shit. And I was just like, I don't follow this. What are you suggesting? That the queen...
It's a weird thing, because to state it at the beginning of the end implicates that this is meant to be a thematic through line, but are we doing the vision, something isn't beautiful because it lasts forever thing?
They don't say anything like that. They just have her lose. That's it.
they have her say that, but they don't have any commentary on the idea that maybe what makes something beautiful is that it is impermanent. Instead but then they have the diamond crumble away anyway. It's like, well, that seems like kind of silly, right? Like, why do that? Why not have it be that it's true that the diamond stays the same way forever, but because it's rigid and unmoving,
when she
that it's not
crumbles
able
away,
to, like, sort of adaptive. Yeah, exactly.
But the film would have to have a very clear understanding of what she actually desires and what its thematic message is really about. Because right from the beginning, really, you've got the confusion between the kind of obligatory holdover of beauty is kind of important, because that wasn't the point of the original. It's envy and jealousy of beauty, which is what determines character actions and motives. They updated it to add in the lust for power, and they never really tried to figure out how, if at all, those two things relate to each other. So the Queen's motive is simultaneously she wants to be the fairest in the land in terms of beauty, but she also occasionally says things about what makes someone fit to rule, and that's not the same subject, but we don't really know which one it's running with, and I don't think the film does either, and that's why you get these confused messages at the end. They say, well, did you not want beauty? But like, what is the diamond shit if beauty and the envy thing is what we're doing? Strength and diamond smashing and you breaking, like, what is happening?
What does her interest in giving the people a strong, everlasting ruler have to do with her keeping them in poverty? You'd be like, well, because she likes her diamonds, so she hoards them. And I'm just like, do you understand what I'm saying? Like, so what, she's just forcing them to essentially starve? She doesn't want them wearing colors? What does this have to do with her interest in using materials that last longer?
And it's because they added that bit at the beginning, which I think is what sets up the confusion for the entirety of the film, is that, you know, she arranges things behind the scenes to come from a different kingdom to rule this kingdom. Then she gets salty that she might not be the most beautiful person in this kingdom, but she didn't want to come to the kingdom to be the fairest in the kingdom. That's what she decides later, question mark?
I think that's just a secondary element of who she is. It's because when she talks about being a diamond, not a rose, she wants to be a very harsh and stern, and I guess it's not implied that she's vain, but that's a secondary characteristic to her, wanting to be in charge and wanting to control. She wants power.
So why does that make it so that everyone suffers under her rule? Where does this connect to her economic policy? She just hoards food and money?
I think they just needed a reason. I think they just needed extra reasons to make her evil.
That's what I'm saying, is like they broaden the scope of her rule compared to the original, but they haven't explained anything. I don't understand why any of this makes sense. All they keep having her say is, diamonds last forever, roses don't. Sure.
It's, the difference between this and the original is that the original doesn't really, like, delve into the nature of how she rules over the land.
Exactly.
Yeah, she can find economic policy.
If you watch this film, loads of this doesn't make sense if you haven't seen the original. If you then watch the original, I think it does. You'd be like, oh, they've moved this and this and this, and they've added a whole bunch of nonsense, and it's fucked up the story. It's like, this wasn't in there.
She is described in the opening storybook of Snow White 37 as vain and wicked. Those are the two traits that she has. It's not about her Canadian tariffs or anything like that. Her economic policies and immigration, none of that comes up.
You're not allowed to wear color.
Vain and wicked.
They are also particular personal failures as well. Like, so I think isn't the equivalent in this movie at the beginning? They don't say that necessarily, but they do say, and she is evil, which is not as helpful. It's not as specific. It's not giving us a character trait which will kind of come back to Chekhov's gun like at the end to doom her. It's just saying, well, she is evil in all of the ways. And
so
then
when
you come up to questions like why, then we'd have no answer.
So many of her scenes, including the climax, it just insists that she has a ruling doctrine, a way, like a system that she thinks is better than Snow White's. But I never understood the connection between it and what we see of the kingdom.
She expresses that the peasants shouldn't have luxuries like pies.
Yeah,
which is like, okay, so are you just like insanely classist?
But like,
do you think that the peasants should just be miserable, but you're the queen?
What about bread?
So,
is that a luxury? Like what?
No. Did she hoard potatoes and
is,
stuff?
I think the idea is that pie is like, that's a dessert. That's some extra shit.
But
you don't need that.
Who the fuck cares if they're the ones making it? It's so weird.
But she's hoarding like potatoes in the cellar.
Yeah, why?
Like that, and everyone's hungry and starving. It's like, that's not gonna really do much to affect anyone else other than yourself.
If she was collecting all of their food and selling it to other kingdoms for their diamonds or something, that's an angle. But we never get anything like this. She just hoards the food until it rots. It's like, what's the point?
But yeah, so that Snow White can use the line specifically to her face. That's not fair. And then we will all understand at the end of the movie when the mirror changes its definition that this was all in fact set up. Snow White said at the beginning, hoarding potatoes and not giving people pies
I felt magic mirror on the wall. Who is the most morally equitable of them all, legally speaking?
And then he would be like, obviously not you, bitch. Why the fuck would you think it would be you? You don't even want to
smash me. You don't want to do that.
It's so. This is what I mean, like, because Platoon's totally right. I actually felt like they were doing it throughout the movie, not just at the end. Like the sort of flip flopping, leaving me in suspended animation as to what the fuck the definition of fair is in this film. But like I said, whenever it drifts toward being a good person or making sure to take care of your subject, I was like, why would the Queen give a shit? She clearly does not want to do that.
Yeah, in the original, it's just they focus on the relevant traits and thematics of the story.
Yes.
It doesn't matter really if she's economically or politically a good or bad queen. The queen doesn't have to be in some kind of turmoil or famine or anything, because that isn't relevant. It wouldn't change anything about the story. Isn't she evil enough as is in the original? She tells the guy to go murder this young girl because she's jealous of her beauty.
Yeah.
Isn't she enough of a bitch?
I know, yeah. But they introduce all this stupid kingdom ruling shit, so they have to, like, make a distinct difference between her style and Snow White's style. So the brief time we get into the Queen's, I don't know, motivations and the way that she rules, like I said, I thought it was all nonsense. I couldn't fucking follow it. And they just keep repeating the stupid Diamond versus Rose shit as though it explains the whole movie.
Diamond versus Rose shit, it's fair shit, and the other thing it has to do is, because in this version Snow White does have to come back and save the kingdom, it does have arbitrarily to establish that the kingdom needs saving in the first place, which the original didn't really need to do at all. Like, I think even in the fairy tale, when she gets married to the prince, she goes to a different kingdom at that point. She's not going back to save anyone. No one needs saving. The queen dies. That's it. She dies of her own, like, vanity. That's it. Whereas in this one, because she has to be the hero, she has to return. It's kind of like the culmination of a really shit hero's journey. But to make it different, they have basically to do all of this nonsensical stuff around hoarding potatoes for the sake of it.
As to her demise, by the way, for those who haven't seen the film, she gets angry at the mirror, saying that Snow White's the fairest of them all, and she smashes it, breaks her scepter doing so, like, onto the floor, and then she gets like charcoaled and then disintegrated while the mirror reforms.
Turns into the black mold from Resident Evil and then gets dusted into the nether world.
I'd known that was going to be her death.
Huh?
How was your day?
It's been a good day.
That's good. You just been chilling?
For the most part, yeah.
Son. You see my outfit? You see how cute it is?
Yeah.
Not everyone, but so many people gave me compliments on my outfit today. They say my hair smelled good. I was like, yo, I'm literally just wearing jeans and a t-shirt. But if this is what it takes to get compliments, well, shit, I can do this every day. This is easy. Like, golly. But the only reason I'm getting so many compliments is because I don't look like this normally. Normally I'm wearing sweatpants, hoodie, and my hair's up. So the fact that I do look like this, it's like, wow. So the more I start to look like this, again, the less compliments I'll get because they're going to get used to it. You know? Use that brain power. And I'm craving spicy. This happens like every month. I just crave spicy stuff. That is loud, huh? I don't know if it's that loud. It's always in that freaking mortal phase. The one that sounds like it's a moon phase. Every time I'm in that phase of my menstrual cycle, I start craving spicy stuff. But I don't don't have anything spicy because I was craving spicy stuff last night as well, and I finished the rest of my Takis. And I'm not even gonna lie. This dude was on the lunch line today. Okay, and he was just standing there, and he had just $2 sticking out of his pocket like this. Look, just like this. You're not looking.
I know what $2 sticking out of a pocket looks like.
Okay, but it was just like this. Like it was just a tiny, tiny bit. And Sinai was messing with him. And so I reached over there. Didn't think it would work. Snatched the $2, put it in my pocket.
Yeah.
Thinking, I'm going to give this back. I'm just,
Bullshit.
No, seriously, I was going to. I was just waiting to see like how long is it gonna take for him to realize. This nigga never realized, so now I have $2.
Yeah. Thieves will be thieving.
Be quiet. And I was.
You gotta watch yourself around them thieves.
And I was in LA today, walking around. Well, I was actually meant to be in science, but it was before science started, so I wasn't in LA chilling. And just walking around, and I found a penny on the floor. So today, I earned $2 and a penny.
Damn.
I mean, I didn't earn it. I got it.
Stole.
Well, I didn't steal the penny. It was just on the floor. I claimed that. But yes, I did steal the $2. I'm not ashamed.
Well, you're a girl. So.
Hey, well,
Not surprising.
don't make me come over there and smack you in the back of the head.
Well, what wouldn't a thief do? That's the real question.
Listen, I know it seems like I'm a thief, but I'm really not. Because why are you not watching your money close enough? Why are you?
Yeah.
Why do you have? Like, it's like you want people to know that you have $2. Because he could have stuck that falling down into his pocket like I had all freaking day. Because it was in my front pocket all day. You couldn't tell it was in my front pocket when I first came in here, could you? No. Because I actually had it stuck down so no one would know. If you don't want people to know you have $2 and possibly take it, don't have your $2 out like that. Otherwise, it's going to get snatched. And
people say, hey, you shouldn't be dressed like that. It's not the rapist's fault you got raped. Then you're going to have to sit back and really reflect on how you've been living your life. And the idea is about blaming the people who got their shit stolen for someone stealing their shit.
Okay, you're right. I take back what I said. I was going to have it as a lesson at first and be like, look, you need to hide your $2 back and give it back. But then I was like, you know what? No.
That'll teach you to think you've misplaced your money and it was really stolen.
No, now there is no lesson. I just get $2 and he honestly probably didn't even know he had it. How much that boy smokes.
How the fuck do we get up in here?
That's the thing, like, almost everyone was freaking high in the lunch line today, bro. I was like the only one who was sober. I was like, bro, y'all get a grip on life. We just came back to school today, and y'all already high. Crazy. We've only had 2 classes.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And y'all are already in the bathroom. Like, oh my gosh.
They addicted, they can't stop.
What are you doing here?
Trying to figure out how to get the fuck out of here.
Oh, I thought you were trying to figure out how to get
This
in
is
still.
locked.
Why don't you go up?
I already went up.
Oh, on both of them? Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's obviously a secret door. But can't move those.
Well, look, it has like.
Doesn't matter if I can't move these fucking things.
Well, what if you pull something out to where you could move them? Did you ever think about that?
Yeah. Let's see if I'm missing something over here.
Listen, I don't need the attitude. I'm just trying to help you as well.
What attitude are you talking about?
The one you're giving me. I'm being silly.
You're not the one to comment on other people's goddamn attitudes.
Comment on whatever I want to comment on. What is it?
Well, it ain't gonna hold any weight.
Huh?
Maybe if you were a stoic individual who didn't show emotion very often, then maybe you could say, hey, I don't need that attitude. But when you give attitude all the time...
The stoic individual?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep, that's why you're like, oh, you don't have emotions. It's like, okay. Just because I don't run off at the mouth anytime I have a feeling doesn't mean I don't have feelings.
Well, obviously you have feelings, Caleb. You're human.
Oh, now I'm human, huh?
Oh my. I don't know. You be trying to say you're a god all the time and you're not
Duh.
human. Oh my gosh. I'm just the best.
Immortal, yeah.
I'm gonna prove that that's wrong.
Good luck. That really won't prove anything.
Yes, if you're immortal, then you can't die.
Nobody said this body couldn't die.
What are you talking about?
I am not this body. I am the soul that resides
Right,
within it,
then
fool.
Everyone is immortal.
No, because most people choose to be cut off from God, which means they're not going to be immortal. They are going to die, and they're just going to quit existing.
Well, then that means I'm immortal.
Well, I don't know.
Hey, we're going to be immortal together, bro.
Jeez, not if you keep thieving people's shit. Tell you that. God don't like that.
You're right.
Can't be stealing people's shit.
I'll give his money back.
See, and then there's this, which I don't see how to get past this either. It's dark as fuck, which ain't helping anything, but it just looks like a big empty room. Maybe. This is traps to fucking kill people. I already went over here. There was something on this. Shut up. I already set off a trap. But that didn't do anything. I need candlelight. That's what I need.
Is that something you can have?
Yeah, I can learn the magic spell too. Oh, candlelight, here we are. Let's see if it does anything for me. Okay. It's a little bit better.
No.
I still don't see shit. Wait a minute, what's over here? Nothing. Let's check back over here. Sticks. Man, I'm tripping. This whole time I had candlelight, didn't even know it.
This boy is still not getting any sleep. How about you were hibernating, my friend? Not my friend, I mean Sam.
Old CM Punk.
Yes, he's so precious. Look at him. So precious. He was at Celtic FC.
what the hell you just said.
Celtic Football Club. Okay, come on now. Oh, Celtic. My fault. Green looks good on him. I need to shut up. I'm leaving.
These bitches crazy these days, y'all. But to be honest, because I am a little stuck and running out of patience, this is the other place I need to check with. Wait. You fucking kidding me. Who the fuck would have seen that shit without the candle lights? Even though I'm like, I'm pushing them all over. That's what I'm like, what the fuck? Can't get past this motherfucker. He was thinking about doing. Gold necklace. I will. Expert. Damn. Yeah, fuck with it. Okay, so a little bit more to the right. Fuck. Come on now. Come on now. Come on now. Okay. So let's go. Just a little bit. Fuck. Let's go just a little bit further.
Before seeing it, and after seeing it, I asked my mum what she thought happened, and she said, and there was a big long pause, and then she said, good beats evil. You know what? It's true.
I mentioned it before, but there was, heading into the third act, there is this great, it was the most suspense I'd ever felt during this movie was, oh, what are they going to do? How is the queen going to die? Snow White can't kill her, that would be too much. So what's going to actually happen? How is the evil queen going to be defeated? Because we're done with the evil, the old hag sequence. That's done and over. I was thoroughly delighted in like a purely goofy way when she smashes the mirror and turns into the mold creatures from Resident Evil and dies. I was like, where did this come from? It came from nowhere.
So
she just dies because of the mirror breaking.
Yeah, it to me it just so comes across as, but how does the queen die? And then like, we can't do it like we did in the original, so you gotta come up with something else. So like what? I don't know. You something to do with the mirror? Like
queen aspect of her ruling the kingdom and being in charge. They never give us a reason why people follow her when she's so obviously evil and things are really bad under her. And all it takes to get people to flip is for Snow White to come back at the end and say, "Remember how good things used to be?"
Here's a key for you, guys. Snow White is the only brave person in the entire kingdom because at one point they're all following her, like she is the pure and awesome leader, and they're going to get behind everything she does. And then they have two guards in front of an enormous crowd, and none of them choose to try and help Snow White when she's about to be executed. I was like, there's two. You can overcome them with just like one or two guys, and there's like 100 of you.
You don't even have to get physical. Just say, "Jeremy, remember how much fun you used to have?" And he's like, "Yeah, I do remember. I don't want to be evil no more."
You could have had it such that she could rally them, and they didn't need to like fucking slaughter the guards, just disable them, right, and save her, and it would show like, oh, just how much inspiration she's provided to this whole kingdom. But no, instead, as some people may have heard already, because we've alluded to it, the way that she stops her own execution at the end of the film is because she knows the names of the guards and talks about how they used to have a lot more fun back in the day. Don't have much fun these days.
Yeah, Walter, you used to be a baker, and you would bake pies for everyone, and you wouldn't let anyone go hungry.
Captain by captain.
When you say I remember, I started to wonder if there was like a fucking mind spell that got cast on everybody, because they do this thing in the movie where it's like, wait, Snow White?
Yeah, it's like, what's going on?
And it's like, what do you mean? She's not that old.
The princess of the kingdom?
Yeah, like it's so they're trying to imply that like it's been so long since the prior kingdom's leadership that no one remembers it anymore, and no one. I was actually right at the beginning of the film. No one remembers who she is. Why?
Yeah, because she's sweeping the floors now.
Okay.
Yeah, that's one of the first scenes, isn't it? After the Queen takes power, one of the first scenes to kind of establish this is I don't want to call it a mechanic, but fuck it, why not? She's in the kitchens and she's scrubbing dishes, and the not prince turns up to start stealing shit, and they have a conversation, and he's like, well, the queen's evil and she hoards it, and Snow White says, well, I'm sure the princess, she'll like talk to the queen for you. She wants to help her people. She does nothing but think about how to help her people.
Yeah.
And then he's like, well, maybe she should do something. Like, maybe.
Yeah, he doesn't recognize her.
So that is a broken fucking opening like scene to try and establish the state of things, because she would already know the queen back to front by now in terms of how selfish she is.
More than anyone else.
Like, I can negotiate with her, and that's how it plays out. She walks into the room and talks to the queen as though it's their first fucking meeting. It's like, that's not how this works.
Or so.
You know her. You not only know her so well that you would know this request would never go through, but you wouldn't talk to her like that, being like, it would be fair for you to help. Blah, blah. It's like, no, you'd be like, okay, you'd have to grovel a bit. You'd have to like, hey,
play
evil
into her
bitch.
vanity.
Yeah, you have to.
People would really, really like you if you did some things for them.
Yes,
they'd adore you. They wouldn't just fear you; they'd respect you and adore you.
And
like
when she says like
Galadriel with the ring.
When she says, I don't remember you being this opinionated, it is like, the implication is that you two haven't spoken for 5 years or some shit. It's like, what's going on? And yeah, it's all inspired by this guy who just broke into the castle and started stealing all of the food, and then says, like, well, I'm hungry. And it's such a, like, what do we do? Like, what is the simplicity of this story? Because, the notion that she's like, the queen could, help out her people, blah, blah, blah. It's like, Is everyone just starving outside? Is that the case? It seems to be. Why is Snow White so, like, retarded that she hasn't sort of caught on to something needs to change faster than now? It's only when the Queen tries to kill her that she decides, like, something should be done.
I think the film mistakes innocence for retardation. The original film.
But, like,
maybe she's just stupid.
The original Snow White treating everyone well no matter what. This one is not that character, and she like prides herself on this, zeal and leadership and knowing what needs to be made right and making it right. Even though the film starts off, she's kind of cocky, like, oh, I'm sure the Queen will take care of it, even though she hasn't for a decade.
I mean, like, yeah, they want it both ways. They want the new age Snow White bullshit, but then they want the old shit, but then they interpret the old shit like she's stupid. Like, she's a stupid child who doesn't get that her evil stepmother is evil.
If she was this brave, fearless warrior king that's going to lead the kingdom into a better future, that opening, handful of scenes for her don't make any sense. She's much more passive and sort of, she's fearful of everything. You'd be like, well, yeah, it's her adventure through the world that changed her, and it's pretty fucking fast. I guess, teaching dwarves how to clean made her become a completely different person.
You've also kind of written yourself, not into a corner, but you've definitely limited yourself in a great way, where if you want to have Snow White be very kind, but also very brave, there are simply a lot of places where those two things just can't really coexist. There is a time and place where maybe Snow White, you should stab the bitch right now and kill her because she's evil and she is ruining the kingdom, but that's not a kind thing to do. You have to frame it as kindness for the peasants or something, and narratively, thematically, it'd be really weird to have her do that.
Yeah.
Even if it might be the right thing to do and the brave thing to do. So you've kind of written her traits to where they can come into conflict in a way that you can't really resolve them if you're talking about a political revolution.
Well, the original never had to solve this problem because it never put a knife in her hand and put it to the heart of the queen and asked her to push the fucking thing in. This is not, we don't have to wonder about that question because Snow White never had that chance. But in the new one, they want to show you that she had the chance to do that there with this horrible monster. And you sort of sit there as an audience member and be like, man, probably should.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. It was like, you know what, you could just do it and this is a write-off. It's a oneer. Just go ahead and do it. You'd have to frame it as kindness for the peasants to restore the kingdom, not as vengeance for her father or anything like that. But
you got the sense that all the guards are probably like, do it.
Well, but that's the thing, because it doesn't need to get that far. At any point in the movie, from her first scene as the non-child Snow White, all she has to do to end the movie is walk out the gate, say, hey, isn't this shit? Yeah. Everyone turns around.
Yeah, remember things used to be great.
And then if you need one step up from, because the public will probably behead the queen, and if you're too kind to let that happen, you just go to the mirror and say, hey, mirror, what do you mean by fair? And then the movie finishes.
I'm surprised they didn't have a climax where, for example, the whole kingdom turn on her, even the guards, and then she summons a bunch of CG skeletons or something. There's this big arbitrary fucking
terrible fight,
yeah. And then Snow White and her have to have some kind of fucking a sword fight. That's the kind of shit I would have expected.
Yeah, she lowers the drawbridge, retreats into the castle as all the peasants are like, we don't like you anymore, and she runs. But Snow White gets in before the drawbridge closes, or the gate, or whatever, and they have their final showdown in the mirror room, or something, I guess. And the dwarves are present during this final...
Oh my god, dude.
The dwarves are present during the final... I can't believe it. I almost forgot the dwarves were here this whole time. The dwarves sneak into the castle at the end.
They make sure for us to understand how they did that, yeah.
Yes, they snuck into the castle through the dungeon, and then all that happens is they just appear in the castle courtyard behind everyone to do nothing. Nothing happens.
That to me is the best summarization of how they fucked up with the dwarves. They had no idea what they were doing. They just knew they had to have them. They break
the dwarves are here
to do what? And it's that scene got cut, I guess.
The midget crossbowmen did more plot-relevant stuff than the dwarves do.
Wasn't it the midget crossbowman? Was he added in reshoots?
Yes.
Because they read.
I say that.
We don't like this.
I don't know. I am guessing
the story, as far as I know, because there was a mistake in reporting on this, a relatively infamous one at this point, that it was the Daily Mail that ran with screenshots of the traveling crew, thieves, people, said they were the dwarves when they weren't. Even as far, there's evidence to suggest they were never the dwarves, but a lot of people believe they were. And so there's been a huge conversation about the back and forth of just how much they were in the film or not, and all this other stuff. But apparently there's stuff you can find to prove that the dwarves were always going to be in here and they were always going to be CG, and the fucking whatever they are, the bandits.
I can believe that. I wonder if the bandit subplot element was expanded upon for budget reasons.
As far as I can tell, the bandits were always going to be in here as well, which I think is relatively easy to believe. The thing that I find strange about them is how unbalanced the team is. That dwarf like actual dwarf gets a lot more, dare I say, screen time, character, whatever, than almost any of the others apart from the leader. They're all sort of...
those are basically the two. There's only 3 that have virtually any lines whatsoever. There's Jonathan, who leads them, the crossbow dwarf, and I think one of them says, as he leaves the party with a couple big pretzels, "Thanks for having us."
Yeah.
And that's basically it.
Dude, that line stood out to be so hard. I was like, what? Like, what?
He's just taking pretzels with him. "Thanks for having us." It's like, I guess that's a polite thing to say. All right.
Why? I guess.
But it's the dwarf who tells Snow White that. Well, I guess we can get into Jonathan here in a moment. But he's the one who says, "Yeah, he took an arrow for you. You know, he really likes you. You're really cool, and he really likes you a bunch."
Well, and they imply that he's trying to flower his relationship with the other girl. Like, there's just some other dancing girl, and it's like, you two seem friendly or something. I remember thinking, like, who is that? What's happening? Why are we spending time on these people when you refuse to, like, make them characters?
They do a better job at characterizing the French resistance in Top Secret.
Let's see.
Deja vu, chocolate mousse. So one of the biggest differences, of which there are many, but one of the biggest differences between the remake and the original is the role of the prince character. In the original movie, the prince has very little screen time. One of the reasons for this is actually because they found it really difficult to animate a male adult human cartoon character, because that wasn't really done at the time. A lot of this was like we'd gone before. This was kind of first of its kind, revolutionary, techniques and style. There was an original sequence, as I mentioned before, where the prince had been captured by the queen, and he has to fight his way out of the castle. Swashbuckling with the guards, jumping over the castle walls, reminiscent of like the Errol Flynn kind of action stuff at the time. The reason that was cut was, well, at least one of the reasons, was because they were still finding it really difficult for them to nail down how do you animate an adult human male in this style. Snow White was difficult on her own, but it was somewhat easier because she was a female. It was a little bit easier to sort of give them the feminine characteristics and to animate that in a cartoonish but still fairly realistic way. So the prince only shows up twice in the original movie, as you know. At the very beginning, he sings one song. He sings to her while she's on the balcony. There's a part where he kisses the dove, and then the dove goes down to kiss him. And even the dove gets real. I got a picture of it here because it shows the characterization of it all. The dove is like super bashful and kind of shy of this handsome, charming prince, and even the queen sees the prince in the courtyard in the original singing to Snow White, and she's like, "Whoa, and that's what kind of gets her to tell the huntsman to, kill Snow White after she asks the mirror who's the fairest, and it's at that point the mirror's like, "Yeah, Snow White, she's got you beat." Now, the prince only returns at the very end of Snow White, when it is said through actually the text as the seasons change, that he has heard stories of the maiden sleeping in the glass coffin. And he goes to check her out, gives her a kiss. It's true love's first kiss. Hooray, they go off to live in a castle together. His role is extremely small in the original. His role is larger in the remake.
Yes.
Is something that can be said.
Notably less princely.
He is notably less princely. He is not a prince. He's basically a guy. His name is Jonathan, I believe. And he's kind of the person who goes on the biggest arc of the movie, I guess. He starts off as being...
probably, right? Yeah, you're probably right. I was just sort of thinking, it's like, well, Snow White kind of didn't even need to get the bravery, because as mentioned, she was pretty brave when the huntsman was gonna get her. So, like, really, she didn't even really complete an arc much at all. And then it's like, what about Dobie? It's like, well, that was feeble, so whatever. The queen obviously doesn't complete an arc, so you're probably right. He probably
kind of goes from, I'm a selfish in for myself, kind of rough and tumble rapscallion, and then he turns into, no, you know.
Alright, y'all. I'm about to call it a day on Skyrim for the day. Reese, Maybe. Mm. I like calling him Mauricio Shogun Hua. But, yeah, appreciate you coming through. I'm going to call it a day on Scream for now. Oh. Shit, I can't believe I'm still coughing and sniffling and shit. It's been a little bit of a time with this infection. But I feel like we got a fair amount of grinding done. Requires 40. Really? Damn. In the name of the Jarl. 2,000? Where are your people even at? He's gonna get up and attack me, ain't he? But what? You came out here by yourself? This is the middle of nowhere. What?
What say you in your defense?
Dude, I already told you. Oh, he's reloaded. Alright, fuck it. Oh, he can't die. What the hell could it? Oh, well, damn, if he can't die. But I'm not doing any damage yet. I'll wait until he re-ups. Oh, shit. There it goes. Damn. I'll praise you. Just wait here. Please. I don't think I'll be able to get up to 40 on him, but... Now, you didn't help out like that when I had a giant on my back.
Try not to walk into any spike-filled pits.
Shut up. What is up with this motherfucker, man? What on earth is your malfunction, man? And he can't die. Why not? And they're not even like putting more bounty on me or nothing for doing this to him. He ain't getting up now. No, I wasn't expecting that. It's pretty wild. Huh? What, did it cancel out? What the fuck? unstoppable, bruh. How come I can't grab it? Nothing happens. What the fuck, bro? Can you put your damn weapons away? Stop hurting this man. Oh shit. What? This is... I'm getting my destruction up though. Very slowly. And I guess it just doesn't blow up until he gets up. Alright, that's fine for now, I guess. His... whatever he's got going on has led to... us having this opportunity. So we'll just use it. I shouldn't have went away like that. Oh. He ain't dead yet. Ain't no way. He's gonna wake up for sure. Yeah, I knew it. What the Now I can say it has definitely been real. I mean, this is remarkable. I don't know what to make of this. And now homie ain't even attacking. And he ain't even attacking us. Wait a minute. I'll give you a few seconds to see if you can figure out what I'm going to wait for. We gonna see. Because I'd rather die than go to your pale hold prison. When you find a bug, you just put it to use for you, you know? That's what you do. And you stab the shit out of him while he's bugging out. Get your whole fucking shit up. Alright, that's enough. Let's get out of here. Before he wakes up. Wait, he already woke up? Alright, now, let's get the hell out of here. Before he wakes up. I mean, I don't even know where the pale would be considered. I mean, okay, I guess I'm on a farm up there, so farm's got to be a part of something. But holy hell. Come on. I've never seen such an indestructible guard in my life. Alright, this should be good enough, hopefully. Alright. I love y'all. Appreciate you coming through. Until next time, as always, stay free, stay safe, stay armed. Hope you and your people are never harmed. We about this bitch, y'all.